You had
I had
something.
a story.
Yeah.
Well, I say it's a story. It's the beginning workings to a story. I have an idea, which I don't know if it's been explored. Maybe in that book you were telling me about Hyperion, maybe they explore it there.
Hyperion. Oh yeah. So let me maybe back it up.
Okay, sure. Yeah.
So that like
There's context.
yeah. So we were talking about that how a concept of learning from older civilizations uh, could be very very important, and how it could even tie in with our development of artificial intelligence. How could it tie in with the kind of complexity we have right now in our civilization as compared to what we are familiar with in our written history, and why nowadays these topics are propping up regarding that, oh, there was a civilization, like maybe, I don't know, Roman civilization, which made certain mistakes and they fell, and they they became too big, whatever the problem is, that there might be some older civilization which got complex, but due to either some natural disaster or uh, I mean, well, that's what the hypothesis says, that it was a natural disaster. But yeah, if you become so complex and you might have not considered natural disaster, it can bring a whole civilization to the ground, and then
Or even they could have wiped themselves out. Maybe like we have nuclear bombs now. If they had weapons of mass destruction back then, I guess maybe they could have wiped themselves out. That's a possibility, maybe.
yeah. I mean, of course. I mean, so the context was sharing this new evidence, and I was telling you that because we are thinking about how we can be prosperous in every other way right now, what are the ideas, how an individual should be acting, and how are the systems should be approached. So many of that ties into some speculation into future. So then of course I said that you should read this book Hyperion, which is about this futuristic ideas. And then you had this story.
So it's a concept. I say it's a concept. I thought the idea might make an interesting story. So I watched a YouTube video within the last couple of weeks, and it was on the subject of space and ownership of space. You know, who owns what in space, and so it's like there are all these rules. Some of them not even defined so much, but so nobody owns space, right? But you know, if you as a country or a person send something up there, like really and truly, that's yours, right? But then, so where am I going with this? So the idea is that if somebody is born in space, what nationality do they take? And I forget, I need to watch the video again, but it's something along the lines of, so you would either take your parents' nationality, or it's the spaceship, the spacecraft, whatever you call it, what country that belongs to. So I think you would take that nationality, but that brings like all kinds of, like I say, interesting ideas in which, so imagine the mother is of one nationality, the father is of another nationality, and they're an international space station, which doesn't really belong to anybody. Then it's like, what nationality does this child take? Yeah. This person isn't born on Earth, so what rights does this person have? Because your rights depend on your nationality, where you're able to go, what you're able to do, right? So I just thought it'd make a very interesting story for somebody, if not the first person, to be born in space, like I say, to maybe parents of different nationalities and different nationality of spacecraft. Just like I say, just to make it more complicated, you know. And then this person, I don't know, maybe they come back to Earth, and you know, are they loved by everybody? Are they discriminated by everybody? What rights does this person have? In fact, I don't think that person or their parents would ever be in control of their life again, you know. I think because of the situation, so many decisions would be made for that person, you know. and that person would just be in all kinds of scenarios and situations. I just thought it'd be a really interesting concept.
You would really love this movie then.
Which movie?
Exactly on this topic.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. No, no, there is a movie
Oh yeah.
made. Yeah,
Okay.
this guy is born in Mars. So he's born in. So there's a mission, and they go up, and it's they are living for so long, and this she was pregnant. So he was born in Mars. He grew up there. He has never even seen Earth. So
Okay.
his bio. It's not even just the social concepts. It's
His
his heart is
biology.
different
Wow.
because he's developed in lower
Yeah.
gravity. He don't perceive certain things, and he knows about Earth, but he's never been there. It's not a good movie. It falls very hard after some time. I think so.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it could.
Do you remember what it's called?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's a very new movie. Just came
Oh really?
last year. Yeah.
Yeah.
Gary Oldman, if I'm right, is in it.
Mm.
And you know the guy from Ender's
Ender's
Game.
Game. Yeah.
Yeah, you know the main character who played.
Ender.
So sorry, Ender. Yeah. I can check it for you
Yeah,
if you
please do.
want.
I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's funny because I was thinking Lost in Space, and I know that's not the one you're talking about,
No, no,
but it's
no.
funny because Gary Oldman is in that as well.
He is.
Yeah.
Oh wow. Oh yeah. No, I don't. Well, Lost in Space is like the Netflix one, the series. I think the
No, no, I'm
Netflix.
talking about the movie. There was a movie with Matt LeBlanc from Friends. This was like 20 years ago.
Oh no, I don't know about that.
Yeah.
No, no, no.
It's actually a good movie. I
Yeah.
recommend it.
Yeah. Okay.
In fact, I think that's what the thingy is based on, the new series. I think it's based on
Oh
that.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, okay. No, makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Great. Yeah. 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 So, and another thing is that I think there's a property when we always think about certain problems and certain different scenarios where all the boundaries of our constrictions are not there,
Mm-hmm.
but it is somewhere, like you said, in space. So it's very interesting when we talk about that.
Mm-hmm.
But then we have a very huge tendency to bring the problems which we have in our older scenario and try to be fascinated by it, that what would happen if these
Mm-hmm.
problems would be in this new scenario. But
Mm-hmm.
one of the properties of that is that mostly because it's such a new situation, there would be problems which we don't know, and the amount of problem we think would transfer from our older situation to this newer situation won't be there. So of course there will be a lot of problems which are very similar, but
Mm-hmm.
it would be significantly less than what we might be thinking. So there might be even like problems which we haven't even thought about, which I
That would just never come across.
it's just how could it be?
Yeah,
How
yeah,
could we
yeah.
even like because it is not a problem,
Mm.
which means that it cannot exist
Yeah.
in this scenario.
Mm.
So this is like always one of the biggest thing about problem solving. Whenever you are solving a new puzzle, uh, there's always a barrier to this new resource or this new way of actually progressing, is that you have to deal with this new problem. Like there's a new problem, and when you cross that boundary, then you like step into
Mm.
this new horizon. But I mean, solving problems, it's I don't know, I've been thinking, and I think there's a lot of research now regarding using plants. And when I say plants, I mean using them as a way to actually explore your inner self.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, psychedelic
Psychedelics,
plants,
yeah.
and use it as a medicine,
Mm-hmm.
use it to actually solve certain problems which are more general and not specific to an individual, but actually the problems which can change a little bit, some course. So you have to go outside because there's so much complexity right now that we are having wicked problems. That's how Stephen Kotler says it. And
Mm-hmm.
I like how he says, like, some of the problems are hard, but some are wicked. And to solve the wicked problems, you have to get out of that hole of that box to look at those wicked problems. So I was thinking that maybe taking these, there should be some sort of a way to approach for someone who has never known about it. They don't know what it is. It seems like something so strange. I mean, is this something very further away for some people? Some people don't care about it, and for some, it's like pretty evil. They would destroy their mind or however. But let's say someone is curious enough and they are gonna do it no matter what you do. And of course, no, I'm not saying, or I assume you are not, whether you haven't said anything, but I mean, that, oh yeah, definitely they should, everyone should, or they should, or anyone should go for it, or, but I mean, if someone is going for it, and no one should stop them. But I mean, are there some things written? Are there some small guides about it? Are there any ways? Because
There are, and especially with the internet, I imagine it's not so difficult to get hold of. But I feel I feel like maybe a lot of it is either misinformation or like you say, the information isn't. It's with psychedelics. It's difficult. Like no one can really prepare you, and so no matter what guide anybody gives you, it's all it's all it will all go out the window as soon as you take those psychedelics.
great. But I mean, there are certain fatal errors which you can make.
Of course, yeah, and certain things you can avoid.
Yeah. So I mean, of course, I'm not talking about taking psychedelic guide as in what happens when you take it. I mean, before you take it.
I see what I mean, to prepare you
Yes.
for it, and so you don't abuse it as well. Maybe.
You don't abuse it. And the reason why I'm actually asking you, maybe because I think you have enough experience.
Yes.
And yeah. And I think it would be good if your experience is a bit out there, so that there's some sort of understanding, particularly on someone who is, just understanding how to do it. Because I've heard these questions so many times, and I go to some place where some bio researcher or someone who is in marketing and someone who is in these AI communities, everyone's trying, like they want to do it. And now it's a different scenario as it was like 7 years ago now. And they ask you, and it's very scary. No one knows where to do it. And I can tell one place is like this guy Aubrey Marcus. He has written few things about that. I mean, I can start from the basic, that I think set and setting is very important. Now, set and setting, I mean, I think it would be better if you can first tell me like how you have experienced set and setting.
So I didn't really know of set and setting when I took it. I was literally hoping to take some hallucinogenics. That's not what people refer to them as nowadays. They call them psychedelics, but I knew them as hallucinogenics, however you pronounce it, say it. And I I was expecting to trip. I was expecting to hallucinate. So for me, it wasn't, set and setting wasn't important. It's only after I had done it and had a pretty wild experience. I think you were saying one time we spoke months back, and you were saying LSD especially is one you can negotiate with. So you learn very quickly on LSD, with the others as well, but this one I definitely know. You learn very quickly that you're in control of the whole experience. Like, it's your mind playing tricks on you, and where your mind goes depends on, how you are at the beginning of the trip. So yeah, set and setting, very important.
So I mean, I mean, of course, so that makes it like one of the very important things, that okay, of course, like, and set and setting means that the place where you are and how is your mindset. And this is very important, I think. And I know that people who do meditation, yoga, martial arts, sports, they will know that. It's a very simple thing. It's nothing. If you are going to watch a movie and you had a bad argument with someone you really close
You're
to,
not going to enjoy that movie.
you're not going to enjoy that movie, no matter where or whatever that movie presents you. I mean, you might be able to, if you have a practice, again, same thing, then you would change your settings
Yeah.
of your mind,
Mhm.
and that's what settings means,
Mhm,
inside of your mind.
Mhm.
Set means that what place you are at. Let's say if you go to watch, and then the cinema has a lot of drunk people, and
Yeah,
they're
it's not
just
going to be a fun experience.
no one gonna be fine, and they're just talking out loud,
Mm.
or this projector is faulty.
Mm.
You're not gonna
Of course.
enjoy that. So there's both like a combination of inner and out, because I think the journey mainly is when you go from your in to out, and the boundaries of your in and out is kind of crumbling. So it's like a metaphor. I would say that, the outer parts which you perceive should be like in sync with your inner parts, so that you can kind of have a smooth experience somehow. But I actually want to find out a little bit more about, like, what should you take first, let's say.
You know what? It's a very good question. I've thought about that myself, and after having done it, I thought to myself that this is something everybody should experience. But then you think about it deeper, and you realize, you know what? Not everybody's ready for this, and I guess some are so strong that I can imagine it breaking people's minds. I'm not 100% certain of it. I don't know the scientific research, but it's intense stuff. LSD is anyway, and so I can imagine it's not for everybody. Um, People say weed is a gateway drug. Weed is probably the softest thing you can start off with, but then again, you smoke enough of that or eat enough of that, and you could have a pretty bad experience on that as well. But I guess weed is probably the softest thing you can do. But if you're interested, having been through the experiences I've been through, I would say take the harder ones first. Take the harder ones first and then work your way down. I know that probably seems counterintuitive, but we know that LSD isn't addictive. And so I personally feel like if you were to take a low dose of LSD, it might put you off a high dose. But when you do a low dose, it doesn't give you half of what the high dose does. And so I recommend start big, go wild, and then work your way down if you didn't like that. And then you would come to a point where you enjoy something on the spectrum.
Okay.
That's my look on it.
Yeah. I mean, that's your experience,
Yeah,
of
yeah,
course,
yeah.
yeah. So, but I meant not on a dose, but
Yeah, you meant which ones to take?
yeah.
Truffles. I did truffles. You get them in a box of 15 grams. I did about 10 grams, and that was really mild. I felt that was really mild. I can recommend, for those who want to do psychedelics, I can recommend truffles. Start off with truffles. And also, I think they're regulated quite well. I mean, they're probably illegal in some countries, but where they're not illegal, the people do it properly. So there's somewhat some regulation. People know what to expect. There's a lot of research on that, if I'm not mistaken. Mushrooms are great, but obviously being illegal, you can't get them in right doses.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? That's why I say truffles are good, because they're weighed and they're measured, and you know exactly what you're getting. There's loads that I haven't tried, man. I personally want to try some peyote. Is it peyote? Is that what they call it? The cactus. I want to try some of that. I don't know anything about it. All I know is it's another psychedelic. That's what I want to try. I want to try some DMT, but that's a bit potent.
But what are you trying to get out of it?
What am I trying to? You know what? For me, the LSD was like an adventure. It showed me. I'm using quotes, air quotes. It showed me that there's something else there. Whether it's real or not, whether it's all in my mind, it opened up a whole new world, and I liked it. I thought it was interesting. And I feel like, from what I understand, DMT is like, although shorter, it's a more powerful experience than that. So I guess I'm just looking for a bit of magic.
Okay. Yeah, like a way of having your mind somehow perceive certain external or internal reality
Yeah.
in such a different way
Yeah.
that it actually like forces you to reconsider what you think reality is.
Yeah. And
So
that to me is intriguing. I really want to see that.
that's exactly what magic is, and
Is,
that's how people have defined it. I mean, it is not something which actually defies the laws of our physics and the laws on which our reality exists, and some of them you can test it, it's not like magic is not supposed to be something which you can like, oh, I can just jump out of the
Mm.
window and not die.
Mm.
And I mean, we are at the third floor,
Mm.
so I don't know how much damage that would do, but still, um, it is about actually more ways of perceiving
Mm.
certain
Mm.
things, and that's what magic is. Like it frees you a lot to certain constraints which you have most of the time in your mind. But yeah, yeah.
How do you feel? This is a subject me and some friends have spoken about. How how do you feel about? Because I was saying I think everybody should try it, right?
Mm.
But I'm completely against the idea of spiking people.
Oh yeah, of course.
But for some people, it would do them a world of good. What?
I
How
know.
do you feel about that? I mean, I know
It's
how I feel.
just, it's just no. I don't.
I'll get to that,
I
but I
know.
want to hear
Yeah.
your opinion.
Well, I mean, who are you talking about here?
Um, so I heard that there was this plot many decades ago to spike the water supply of Parliament
Okay.
with LSD,
Mm-hmm.
and that would have got, I don't know how many people are in Parliament during those meetings, but that would have got what, 50 to 100 people like tripping off their fucking nuts.
Oh.
So I feel like, you know what, that could either go really good or really bad. And so you've done this, so you know what it's like, right? I don't know. But so yeah, it can get freaky at times. It can, like I say, if you're aware that you've taken it, it's probably not so bad because you're like, oh, I'm just tripping.
So here's the example which you can take already. So from Aztecs, um, Mexicas, that's what they used to call themselves from Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
So when Cortes from Spain, they
Mm-hmm.
went there at that time, the guy who was the king,
Mm-hmm.
he had, so psychedelics were pretty common over there in a way that it was available, and I think most of their priests and shamans, whatever, I mean, whatever they call them, used to do that, and the guidance was there, and that's how they built such a complex, beautiful, magnificent city.
Mm-hmm.
But the king used to take psychedelics, and then there was a god which he used to pray to, and it was called, I think, Vishalopostli, something. I'm totally butchering the pronunciation, but something like that. So he used to whisper it, and I think it's the picture of that god which he used to see is very complex. They used to um, kill people on human sacrifice on industrial level. I mean, just wrap. Let's just like there's a human sacrifice going on a mass industrial level. There's a line of people just coming up
Just being killed.
on
And
the
then
top of the
next.
pyramid, cut their heart open. They take their heart, throw the body from the stairs of, and the body is just like rolling on the pyramids, and that is results of messing with a powerful plant which could have opened the door to both negative or positive. I mean, that's again the same thing. It is something it's doing to your brain, which the brain can do by itself. So now, psychedelics is actually one of the only, not one of the only, but all the category of psychedelics is pretty much it's activating the chemicals which your brain already have, and it's not 100% proven, but that's what happens in your dream when you mix up two three senses, and that's what you do. So the brain has the capacity to actually perceive both our negative and positive, order and chaos, evil or good, however you want to translate it, these kind of settings at very various different points. So you have seen it, and there are many other examples, but this is one of the biggest one, that someone who was constantly using it, someone who was praying it, someone who was taking it, someone who was taking the guidance directly from that voice, actually did mass human sacrifice for that god. So it's not a good idea.
Not a good idea, you say.
I
I
mean,
agree with you. As
and
much as I want everyone to take it, I don't think spiking people is a good idea.
it's just been so many times that it has. If it was something which would just come up for the first time, I mean, we might be tempted to try it, but it just has happened, and people have lost their mind
I can believe that.
and wouldn't have done anything wrong because there's just some individual, and then it could go south if you are in position of power.
I think
And
it can go
that's
bad just purely because you don't know you're under the influence, and to be hallucinating. Not everyone hallucinates on LSD, but if you do hallucinate and you don't know, you're not aware that you've taken it, you'll probably go mad because you'll be like, "How am I seeing what I'm seeing?"
yeah. This could there would be a huge I mean, these are very, again, same, these are very powerful things because it would not care what you are thinking and what you, the sense of you, what you know of, wants to do, because it's just it's a force, it's a relationship we have evolved with, culturally, and some part of it is biologically. I mean, we don't know, it's very speculative, of course, it's very hard to speculate that, but we have a lot of DNA common with a lot of plants and trees. So there is a relationship culturally and evolutionary, no doubt about it. Like, evolutionary and culturally, there is no doubt about it. We just share so much with all of these things.
No, I was gonna ask you. I think you were making the point earlier that one can experience these highs that psychedelics give you. Excuse me, through meditation. I know you didn't say that specifically when we was watching a Sam Harris video, and I think he touched upon it, and I think you just touched upon it now. Am I right in saying that? So I don't know if you've had these experiences. Have you? And am I right in saying that it's possible to hallucinate while not taking any of these substances through, be it meditation or, I don't know, the practices?
Yeah, it's just so, now it's been, the research has been done, and we know that, uh initial, just very small initial aspects, some of the research done on LSD by, Imperial College, Robin, and then MAPS is doing a lot of research, Multidisciplinary Association of Psychedelics. There's some research going on in Melbourne. Howard did it with weed. Um, there's some, more research going on in states on, mushrooms, regarding, end of life and all that. So they have been, so what is going on with all that research is that they are also observing the states, of each individual's mind, and they're bringing in the meditators who haven't used that, but they're comparing two of who has taken, who have only got to that point through, meditative state. So we know pretty much, in that sense, that, whatever the drug is doing is just secreting DMT in our mind. So dimethyltryptamine is a thing which is naturally existed in our mind, and we experience that mostly when we are sleeping or when we are nearly dying. And so it just releases huge doses of that by itself. So we do hallucinate every night you go to sleep. That's what you are doing. You are hallucinating.
Okay.
And that's
So you're
exactly
saying,
what you
so
are
you're
doing.
saying with practice, it's possible to do this while being awake.
That's exactly. I mean, what is the point of doing this is exactly. Point of meditation is not to be a meditator. That's the whole point of meditation.
Yeah.
And I think that seems very counterintuitive to many people. The only reason why I would like to do meditation is because I don't in future would need meditation to be in that state. I can just walk out of my house and be in that state. You know how this happens? This happens when you play a lot of cricket, or you do a lot of martial arts, or you practice a lot in actually training your brain that how can I be a good cinematographer.
Okay.
I just brought it like that. What happens when you go after 10 years of your practice and thinking and hard work on the set to take a good shot? Would it take you I don't know how many months of practice to actually come up with a good shot, or you would be like, I think I got it.
After 10 years, I think I got it.
Here we are.
Yeah.
So that's exactly what these practices do. It just carves certain neurological pathways through all these grouping of the neurons. There's this new research this guy was sharing. It's amazing that um, they're finding out more about the grouping of the neurons and how these ideas are formed and how the memes actually transfer and how brain plasticity actually affects the memory and how uh, people who would have more brain plasticity with more access to certain memories would be able to have better inspection of their internal uh, workings. So, which is a very similar aspect to what happens when you are in a very psychedelic states. So now all these practices can actually lead you to having formed those pathways in a way that you can, but it's of course it's a very hard thing. There's a very different aspects to it. There's a level of perception to it. It depends what framework you are at.
I can say that. Yeah, I think this is possible. I don't know how true. Obviously, but I think I can say this sounds like very likely. But excuse me, I'm having a hard time understanding how it works because you mentioned the DMT in our own brain, and that gets released every night when we sleep. And so, if it's an organ in our mind, you know, can we not control it like we can control our lungs? We can hold our breath. Do you know what I mean? So maybe we can control the amount of secretion of DMT from the pineal gland or wherever it is that it secretes from. But what I have a hard time understanding is, and this is going on what Sam Harris was saying earlier, as he was saying that our brains contain these chemicals and, they release these chemicals, which is what you're getting at about the DMT.
Yeah.
But LSD is a very different chemical. So how do I can't train myself to release LSD in my brain. Do you know what I mean? Does it only work with DMT? Is that
so? LSD,
yeah?
Again, is a certain chemical which doesn't bring something external from your mind. It just stops your metabolism to break down.
Oh, is that how it works?
Yeah. It just stops your stomach. Sorry, it doesn't stop your stomach. I mean, it goes through your stomach and stop certain stomach digestion enzymes to like there's a container to it, and then there's a control in your body. It just stops them to control it like so hard and just keep it in tight because there's an evolutionary advantage in our containment of DMT. Imagine if you are already like just out of no concentration, no thought, no training, you just are living in a cave and you are living in a jungle or you are living in some village. Let's just cover everything. And you have to go and you have to get your food, but then you are pondering on the nature of your existence. You're not going to survive, man.
Yeah, it's true.
So I mean, no one has time to be like, oh my god, look at this moon, man. There is a moon which is just there. I mean, why is it there? And then whoop, that's it. Like someone took you.
Kills you, yeah.
Bear fucking kills you. So there's evolutionary advantage to actually encapsulate all these things, but still enough enough advantage to keep it as a safe safe bet or tool. Like our evolution is perfect to keep the tools which helps you crack certain different ideas and problems and communicate somehow to not to die. That's what the evolution is doing. So to keep it in a way that if there is a problem, it somehow can actually kick you back into understanding that, dude, you started as a monkey and you needed to survive because we had a potential and there was enough potential in human race to be able to go through all that experience and be then become empathetic enough to actually care about all life and then maybe go on from here to the other place. So to do that, you have to just be winning with every other thing, because if you die, then, and that is not human is saying, that's an evolution which is telling this. They're like, this is the candidate I think has the most potential to go most further and to have survive the highest amount of pressure and longest amount of time, and then may become so conscious that it would be able to take care of its own survival. And then maybe in between there is some force which came in, let's add a little bit of empathy and consider more than just survival. And that is how, of course, you are like running into this direction. So you do need a thing which could, after millions of years, so powerful, would be like, now you are there, you don't need to do all of this. So I mean, this is another thing. I mean, this is just speculation.
Yeah.
Like but evolutionary, it makes sense. Yeah.
So you're saying that it's not the LSD itself, for example, that causes the trip on the hallucination.
I'm not saying this is very easy chemically
Of course, of
tested.
course.
It's just there's no speculation about it.
So what happens is that the LSD is allowing other chemicals to flow in your mind, and that's what's causing
It's an
it. Okay,
enabler.
it's very, very interesting.
Yeah. So what ayahuasca is so DMT
Yeah.
exists
In your body throughout, yeah.
No, it exists in 60% to I think 80% of the plants and the vegetables.
Everything. It's in everything.
It's yeah. It's in so many things. The only reason why your stomach doesn't allow it,
Because of the inhibitors.
Yeah. So what happens in ayahuasca, that they actually finds, that's what ayahuasca is. It finds a way to open up your chemicals enough to allow this kind of a communication between these two neurons. And now I'm talking about pure, so the plants are opening up somehow, and you are having a joint communication with like these kind of course, I mean, would you be able to have an exact experience what you would have on ayahuasca by just meditating? Of course not.
No?
No.
Really
I mean,
not?
well, no. I mean, it's of course, because we are talking about if you are talking about, could you hallucinate? Could you have an experience which you have on DMT? Yeah, you can have an experience like that for sure. But every plants and all that has a different flavor. So of course the flavors are different to every
And
experience.
meditation is one flavor.
Meditation is one flavor. The Kundalini yoga, people say that they experience blasted DMT experience.
I don't know how much I believe any of that.
Well, I mean, so here's I mean, there's nothing like magical about it. It's
No.
you do you dream every day?
Yeah,
Well, how could you do that?
because of DMT, apparently.
So if you can
Train
release,
the muscles.
you can try it by just go to the remote place, somehow live there for about 3 months or something alone, and then and I'm not saying as a torturous thing. I mean, saying in control, and just live with the plants and everything, and then just you can imagine it right now, 3 months in jungle, watching plants and trees and animals and all those
You become like a
voices.
different person.
You would see different things. You would start, the brain would start to release.
So you used to think the perceptions would be different as well.
Yes. Perceptions would be different. So you would, and then your brain chemistry would literally change. The only reason why you would have a different perception is because your brain chemistry is changing. I mean, there's a correlation between what your beliefs are and what your construction of your brain is. You can test it by these brain scanners every time. Like, it just, there's a correlation. I'm not saying that the chemicals are the only thing which might drive you, which is true, but in some cases, but also it is true that it's the other way around. I mean, you can change your brain chemistry. That's what we do all our life. I mean, I think that's not enough told to us, that you can actually change the structure of your brain by meditating. And now that has been that has been researched so much that it was a huge surprise for some reason for me. Now it seems like such an understandable thing when I know about evolutionary psychology, when I am reading more about the study of brain and study of brain plasticity, endocrinology with the stomachs, and how different parts we have brain. But when I heard it for the first time, I was like, what meditators have brain as if like it just reconfigures all the wait, how could that be possible? So it was very strange to me. I was like, this is very strange. But and then of course now I was like, yeah, like it makes of course it makes sense with considering that how you experience shapes your brain. So of course, if you're present in your experience and you are someone who is a contributor in shaping your own brain, then yes, of course, the patterns and the neurons and everything which is being arranged would be different. As a person who is an addict of some heroin would have a different brain uh, pattern than a person who is involved in extreme athletic endeavors. I mean, top level athletes.
Yeah.
You both are kind of. I mean, I'm saying that it's their responsibility, and they are the sole responsible, like responsible people for that. But
But it
yeah,
is
yeah.
different.
But you think by listening that, do you find it a little odd that this is possible?
I find it easy to accept. I find it difficult to understand.
Oh, okay, yeah, yeah,
Do
yeah.
you know what I mean?
Well, I mean,
Because if people are saying, "Oh, I've definitely experienced this," who am I to say, "Oh no, you're lying, you're an idiot"? Do you know what I mean?
no,
But
no, no.
I
Oh no,
don't
this is
I don't understand.
Well,
how-
this is very testable thing.
Yeah.
Like you can just test
Of
it.
course.
It's not nothing like you don't have to rely on saying that I have a mind of a person who is having an LSD experience because you can just test them and you be like,
course.
oh, you're on LSD, and you say you are having an experience, so you can just test it and it's like, what? Oh, he's not lying?
And I guess you can do like brain scans.
You can do full on brain imaging and scans and everything.
And I guess you probably see the same images.
But I mean, the other problem is I think you might not have lived enough in collectivist culture, and you might not have gone through some very very serious rituals. So I can give you one of my examples that how I would feel it. You can actually be. So this is one of the religious aspects, but it's a more collectivistic ritual things which you do. So you gather everyone and you talk about one of those deities in Islam, and then you talk about what they have actually represented, the part of universe, and how uh, encapsulating it is with the good and the bad together, and how good and the sad. So you are very joyful in the start of this gathering, and then you cry in the end of this gathering, and then you sometimes use self-flagellation after many days of these gatherings and all that. It's also a huge system of actually introducing ideas and debating certain things, and intellectually questioning different points. There's lots of positive things, there's tons of negative things going on, as with everything. But then in the end of that, this is a group experience. It goes on for long, like thousands and millions of people take part in it, and it happens in the first month, or with the first Islamic month, which is Muharram. And then on the 10th of Muharram, most of the people would self-flagellate, and they would self-flagellate means they would hit themselves with the knives, and they wouldn't feel pain, they wouldn't feel anything. They would feel joy, euphoria. They would feel. I know you're looking a bit of skeptical eyes. I know. I can prove you that without a doubt. Don't worry about it. And then they would hit themselves with the knives, and they cut themselves uh, with the huge deep tissue cuts, and wouldn't feel pain, and the wounds get healed way quicker.
Really?
I know. Why? Because there's a state of mind they get into.
Okay.
There is a state of mind they get into I mean, I've grown up there. I've seen it.
You've seen it. You understand it better than I do.
Yeah. No, it's not about that. I understand. I don't know what it is. It should be studied more, but we know that this
Sounds
is
like it should be studied more.
more. Yeah. But now it's been going on. I don't know if you know about Wim Hof, but he has now done it a lot. I don't know if you know about Wim Hof. So this is this guy who talks about that how much control we have our internal states of mind, and how much concentration, present moment, and actually balancing your hard work outside world can actually get you into these states. So now if you haven't heard about Wim Hof, I know that's why everyone is looking for magic. And the problem is that the magic exists and it is real, but we are sometimes cynical. So that's why we don't believe in many things, because we don't want to get our heart broken. Because if this time we get our heart broken, we were never going to believe it. So that's why we are so cynical about it. But if we read more about it, if we understand them more about it, you don't have to sometimes lie about these things, and we would actually realize that how much magic there is around us. So Wim Hof is one of those guys. When I talk to people, they have this reaction to instantly check him out, because they're like, this is not true. If it is true, that is amazing. And I'm going to prove him wrong as much as possible. But fuck, if it is true, that is insane. So this is this guy, he have climbed Mount Everest bare feet in shorts.
Really? No.
I
don't know how true that is.
Oh,
is that true?
It's video recorded.
Really? The whole thing is video recorded?
Yeah,
all the way to the top?
Yeah, man. Okay. You just check Wim Hof. Nat Geo, everything now has done it. He has swam in minus 18 degree temperature from under the frosty lake, from one part to another, without preparation of anything.
Really?
It's called breathing exercises. He does breathing exercise. I can do it to you right now. You would feel the difference right now. There's a proper way. Through breathing, his main focus is the intersection of your biology and your consciousness lies within few acts, which are, you can leave and forget about breathing, it wouldn't stop. It wouldn't stop.
No.
It would work itself. You can sleep, it would work itself. You can be worried about anything, it would work itself. Yeah. But you can control it at some level.
At some level, yeah.
You can stop your breathing. You can increase it. You have a say in it. But it is that interjection. There are very few points where there's an interjection between your body and your consciousness, or whatever your mind or your sense of self is. The other part is sex. It actually allows you to be one with your force of that insane old biology. And that is why there are certain ways into those state of minds. How would be the reason why we don't believe it? Because we're not connected to our bodies. And that is one of the biggest problem we have. Now, after we finish recording it, I can't do it while recording it, but I can show you something which will change your mind forever.
Oh, yeah?
There is no doubt about it.
Brilliant, let's do it.
There is no doubt about it. One of the proofs through how certain meditative breathing exercises can change your mind so much that it is impossible to even consider. We have been trained so much to think that the limits of our bodies and the limits of our consciousness and limit to reach inside of us are this or that, and here we end and here it starts, is that we really believe it. It's like that elephant. You know the elephant.
Which elephant?
So when the elephant is younger, what they do is, it's mostly in Africa and India, I believe that they tie the elephant with a rope.
I know about that one, yeah.
And never, is it true? Yes, it is.
Yeah, from what I heard,
why they do it? Because elephant has so much power. You're not chaining these things with anything.
No.
So that's how they have to do it. So the power engine you have, it's so powerful that there has to be chains. Not by someone else, but by your own identity and consciousness. Because where would you start? Like, where would you start? You would start by being, oh, I am the god. Then there's no point. There's no experience. What Nothing would happen. You have to start at a very small point with a body and a container which has a potential to actually go and become something which is very, very powerful and worth experiencing. If you are not given with those tools, then there is no point. So the thing you carry right now has insane potential, but you cannot have all the access to it, because even when you are growing up as a teenager, what would you do? You bump into each and every, it's like a fast car which has amazing slick engine, and you're just driving it and just bumping into everything. That's what mistakes are. What do you learn? You learn those subtle emotional adjustments. You learn, oh, I hurt someone, I shouldn't do that. Oh, I actually became too confrontal. Okay, I mean, you learn certain things about yourself, or whatever you, or I was too much involved in drinking, and this actually just ruined my night. I mean, I should like, and then you start to become even more aware where you are, oh, what jealousy is, you know, or what are the things which are stopping me, and how can I, so you are, this is like a very basic example, like you
Yeah.
bump into everything, and then you learn. So that is a way of actually having a magic it's very common with jealousy. I mean, jealousy, you can have an a very strong urge towards being jealous, especially in your sex life, let's say. And then sometime, after some time, after practice, after all that, you can understand certain things, and you can accept certain things. You can accept your sexuality, their sexuality, and then you have a magic in your brain. Like, something happens, your girlfriend, as with, I don't know, something, whatever triggers your boyfriend, something, you understands it instantly. Jealousy doesn't come to you. It makes sense. You have a power, like you have a power right now to not to be affected by all those enzymes or whatever things is affecting you. But the point is that wherever you are starting from, there's a confinement towards it. That's how you would explore and become like bigger and bigger and bigger. So the elephant example which I gave you is one of the example where, if you would know where to look to have an access to certain parts of your body, where would it be? The interjections of your consciousness, and where your body actually merge. And these are the points. Why do you think it is the most important thing in most of the cultures? And that's why most of the people tells you breathing. Why breathing is important? I think no one actually explains it, that what is the, why breathing is the most important thing in that, why present moment is most important thing in that. So what happens is that what Wim Hof has done is that he would tell you certain breathing exercises. So he also ran a marathon in Sahara without drinking water, having a cup of coffee, without preparing. There's nothing, whatever I'm saying, he's done so many other things. He can train you to do it.
Yeah.
He's not like saying that
No,
I am the
no,
only
definitely.
special one. I'm sorry, but you can't now help yourself but to look, because you
Yeah, of
are.
course, it's very interesting. I'm
Yeah.
intrigued now. Yeah.
I'm not. It makes sense. I've done it.
Yeah.
It makes sense. I know that you are considering it, but there are very strong state of minds, uh, and there's a power of belief which very much not familiar with Western society, but there are certain ways where you can have this experience in a very, very um okay, another thing. So let's just complete this out in a very, very alien way, that you wouldn't even consider that there is some sort of a possibility around it. Now, again, this is the same problem. I think you were thinking that psychedelics is something external, but it's not, because mostly we have this bias around superiority, and something which is created internal is one of the only things which are noble somehow, or virtuous somehow.
Okay.
So if it is happening like that, it is somehow more genuine. And if it is coming from an outside, we have a bias. It's called meat bag bias. So we consider anything which is outside, but we don't really realize that all of our genes, and that is all scientific thing which I'm talking about, is being borrowed by millions of years of evolution, which also includes plants and animals and many other species. So the bias we have is another one aspect of our meat bag or starting point bias. How could you start in a place which is infinity, but you are part of infinity? How
Mm.
could you start? Like
You start from where you are.
that's exactly.
That's the only thing you can
That's
do.
exactly. That's exactly the point. Can you be at a starting point, or maybe restarting point, or maybe another starting point,
Mm.
or maybe whatever point? I don't even want to put starting thing,
Yeah.
or and be like, oh, I'm infinity, brilliant. Would well, I mean, yeah, no, no,
No,
no, no.
no.
I was talking to Teresa, my girlfriend,
Mhm.
and she realized at one moment that how big the space is experientially and what a multiverse is. And just the concept
The
of
concept, it blows
me,
people's minds.
yeah, me and you will be having the exact same conversation,
Mm.
and all the conversation where I am wearing the white t-shirt
Mhm.
and you are wearing the blue t-shirt,
Mhm.
and the table of this color is not white, and one of the conversation in the end
Mm.
where one of us throws one other outside the window. I hope fucking that has happened.
Yeah, possibly in an infinite universe or multiverse even.
So there's nothing
Mm.
stopping you by saying that. Would this idea something which is too exotic and bit elaborated and could not be exactly how I'm saying or how I have been portrayed? Yes, but we just don't have any
Mm.
other
Mm.
example.
Mm.
So that's the only thing we can use in language we can use. It blowed many people's mind all the
Mm.
time. One of the first time I think I heard it was Neil deGrasse Tyson. It was in 2013 on Joe Rogan. That was one of the first podcasts which I listened for the first time.
Mm.
That's the first thing I listen on any of the podcasts. His explanation of multiverses.
Mm.
And I was, and first time I was meditating at that time. I was doing my master, and this is the first time I took uh, weed. And that is the first thing I listen, and that is the most safe space I was in.
Mm.
So weed is a very sacred thing to weed is a very creatively important thing, and of course,
Mm.
and it blowed my mind. But I was just asking her that imagine
Mm.
thinking like that when you are young.
Mm.
Well, you might go crazy.
Yeah,
Or
probably, yeah.
how could you start from there? So there is a fear then after that multiverse which comes instantly, which is like, oh, what is the point why we
Mm.
are here?
Yeah. It makes
What?
things a lot bigger than they were.
Yeah,
As if the universe wasn't big enough.
yeah,
And now we have the multiverse.
yeah. But the fear again, the problem with the fear is that it's
Mm.
again coming from the place where you are at a certain point and
Mm.
you are realizing another point,
Yeah.
but you're again thinking in a way as if that the
And
thing which you are thinking about is not you,
Yeah.
which it is you. I understand, like,
Mm.
you, of course there is a difference between what I am right now
Mhm.
and the thing what is, but in principle you are not a thing outside of it and existing as if you're gonna collide
Mm.
with it.
Mm.
You are part of it in not a way where you are attached to it, but you are inside of it,
Mhm. Mm.
and you are born out of it, and you are what that thing is. So to get to that
Mhm.
point, there has to be these points and starting points and
Mm.
understanding
Mm.
points.
Mm.
And we are just worried about that, oh, there's not enough magic in our body.
Mhm.
I mean, there's that is where we live, that is where we are. I mean,
It's already quite magical.
it is bizarre and magical. If you are with this mindset and you are thinking about it and you are training your
Mhm.
mind, how it would be surprising to
Mm.
me that you don't experience those things. It
Okay.
would be
Yeah.
surprising to me
Mm.
that you are not getting any other thing.
I feel like it's maybe difficult.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, it's very scary. You have
Mm.
to
Mm.
die. You have to let go of your.
Um, I think we briefly touched on something I really want to talk about. Evolution. Um, I've been saying quite recently that we we know collectively as a species that, we've evolved and everything is constantly evolving. I mean, of course, there are some religious fanatics that believe their book and their book tells them that maybe God or, something created man as he is. And we now know, some of us know that not to be true, right? Um, I believe that if we know evolution to be true, and if we don't like where we are and we know we can evolve, do we somehow have, I guess that's not the right way to put it, do we have the right to force our own evolution, or should we force our own evolution? Because we know that it's a thing, right? So why don't we take full advantage of it? Do you know what I mean?
So this has been a very wide debated idea actually in some of the evolutionary
I
biologists.
can imagine.
And well, when I say wide, I mean in very, very, very small circles. It's a very, very odd idea. It's one of the only ideas which scared the hell out of me
Mm.
when I was coming out of certain hinges. So religion can be seen as a starting hinging point which allows you certain sort of scaffolding to consider your existence and hard ideas and don't blow your mind all the time, and then you can venture out. It's like that rocket fuel. Sometimes you can use it to actually shoot yourself out of the out of the gravity well of earth, and then lay off your load, because if you would keep that, it would not allow you to escape earth and it would plunge you back. So you can use it like that, and you can lay off those rocket fuel from your back, and then you can slowly venture your. But it is very scary because the only thing which allowed you to be there at the first place, you had to let go of that. How counterintuitive is this?
Yeah.
But that is how the physical reality works also. Now, what I'm saying with regard to exactly what you just said about the evolutionary biology is that evolution don't have somehow a plan already in its mind. And again, evolution is nothing.
It doesn't have a preference to what survives and what doesn't.
It just wants it to survive. That's how exactly
yeah,
what the evolution is. So that's what Brett Weinstein talks about. He says, if you know the game, and if you know what has been coded, why be a victim to it? Of course,
I agree.
Of course, you can. And we have been actually out of our evolutionary cycle long time ago.
Yeah.
So we are out of it, and that is why it's very scary, because sometimes we are not in line with our evolution, and we grow so much, and that's why we get destroyed. And that's why all the species get destroyed.
I guess
there's a check.
I guess that's my point. Like, we know where we're going. I mean, we if we don't know, we can work it out. And we obviously know there are certain threats. I think what's scary for me, having just thought about it now, is the possibilities, the endless possibilities. Where do we push ourselves? Where do we decide we want to go? And if, for example, there's certain directions we don't want to go in, like, for example, if there are certain diseases, and if to wipe out all these diseases, you have to kill a whole bunch of people with these diseases so it doesn't get spread, that's quite a scary thought,
So that is why you build up certain problem solving, certain grounding practices. That's why you come up with the paths to probe certain aspects and directions, and that is why this is a test and a new way of I call it, like I've been, yeah, it's harsh. I've been thinking about it. It's like a graduation ceremony in universe, where you are now at a point where you have controlled your own evolution, and you can actually take million directions, and you can diversify yourself, and you can actually cross that level of conscious existence into something which you were not, and you can completely be something different but of course there is a common thread of that force of complexity and certain way of self-recognition and experience, which is part of what we are experiencing, that allows us to go somehow in a very weird like stages, but they are so widespread that it's really hard to see it as stage because it's a cosmic time frame, and we live in our individual life, but we now can see that, oh, if we would consider ourselves only as a human, that would be a wrong way of actually justifying a truth, which is you're not only a human, you are a mixture of that force which is keeping you and pushing you to be complex, and then you are evolving with it, somehow recognizing on the top of the wave, and then that becomes a different type of thing, and that now you can actually start to slide on that wave and be like, oh, I can take that direction. And that is one of the biggest reasons why you have to now, with all this complexity and all these possibilities, and that is why, because there are so many possibilities, you have more chances to destroy yourself because you're not in checked by certain basic code rules on which you have developed yourself, so you can actually head on to a ledge which could have stopped if you were still in control of evolution. Even that is not good enough because evolution wipes 90% of the things which has lived on earth
Has died.
has died. Could you imagine? That is the reality of this existence. So, of course, you don't have to be the thing which only drives a purpose from a very basic idea of either evolution or whatever religion or whatever. That's what frees you of this thinking of having to have a purpose, because you don't have to have a purpose. You can create now, finally, which is a very, very hard task, like really, really, really hard task. But I totally agree what you were saying, that we don't have to now be slave to evolution. And actually being slave to evolution might be a more of a problem now, because evolution never thought that you would create an iPhone. It doesn't care. It this is just a byproduct of what
Of where we are.
happened. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess what I'm really asking is, are we obligated to force our own direction of evolution? But you know what? Thinking about it slightly deeper, and it's about to get a little fantastic a little bit, so I'm straying away from reality a little bit now, but think about the idea of it. So we believe evolution to be true, right? Over millions of years, you know, animals, creatures, they evolve to adapt to their surroundings, and over millions of years they completely change shape to the point where there was no birds and then suddenly there were birds, right?
So first thing which I must say, there's a big confusion with Victorian era of Darwinian explanation. So Darwin does not talk about evolution like Victorian era talked about, and that is a big problem in our, and many people don't understand evolution because they have this meme where they say survival of the fittest. Do you think survival of the fittest is what evolution is?
To an extent, I think what they mean by that is fittest as in fittest for that purpose, rather than, you know, those who can run the furthest, the longest will survive. I don't think that's true, but those who know when to run.
You can, yeah, okay.
So fittest in that respect.
So here,
fittest in the mind and the body.
So here is the more direct and basic explanation just by it. It's not that they evolved. No one evolves. No one is evolving. There's not like a species of giraffes were like, the trees are now taller, are the ones which we can get the most food, and I think that's how giraffes would think. They're like very calm. They're like,
No, it just happened to be that the tallest ones were the ones that survived, so they just
So
Always full,
evolution
yeah.
creates million versions,
Yeah.
and that's what it does. It kills every other version
Mm-hmm.
and only keeps
The
the
one
one which worked.
which works, yeah.
That is how
Mm-hmm.
brutal it is. That is the
Mm-hmm.
concept of death.
Yeah.
And that is how you reconcile yourself with,
Mm.
sometimes also with the concept of death. Like there's a way of thinking
Mm-hmm.
about death is in that way. Can also change certain aspects of. I don't want to go. This is a
Mm-hmm.
very huge aspect to get into right now. But I mean, that is how the evolution
Mm.
is working. So it's not that anything is evolving or anything is going on, and then
Mm-hmm.
there were something. See, it's just that it's creating so many different variation. It's keeping the information into only that
Mm-hmm.
version of that species or plant or whatever to go
So what for
further,
that
and then from
purpose?
there on it creates another
Mm-hmm.
variation, and then whatever comes in and
Mm-hmm.
just, and sometimes what happens is that none of the variation works and all of it dies.
Mm-hmm.
And that is what evolution, there's nothing else at a basic, very 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 basic level.
Alright, so what I'm saying is, going on what I was saying about if we can control our own evolution and should we, then
We are already
yeah,
controlling our
yeah.
evolution, so
But what I mean is, could we control our evolution to the point where, obviously it's not going to happen overnight, again it's going to take millions of years, but is it possible for us to take flight like the birds? And I don't mean with planes or kites or anything like that. I'm talking, could we force ourselves, if we know evolution is true and we know it happens with the birds, and we know we can now control ourselves, again, like I said, this is not,
but
100% realistic or scientific.
but that is a very scientific thought, actually. It's not something very crazy. I know you, this is more like statics, not something which is useful, because
Mm.
you would be able to get um flying jets,
Mm-hmm.
which are so, and the robotic flying things,
Mm-hmm.
if we are taking that direction,
Mm-hmm.
of course, quicker than we
Yeah.
would actually. Why would you want to have your wings made out of meat and
Mm.
feather? This is
Mm.
again a meat.
Yeah, yeah.
Why don't like just create the wings
Mm-hmm.
which works way better, and you can just replace them whenever they are not working.
I agree. I'm just thinking. Obviously, like I say, I believe in
Hyperion,
evolution.
Hyperion, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I'm
Yeah,
gonna
definitely.
read it. I'm gonna read it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But-
But it's a very small aspect of it. Of course, this is not the point of it. But
Yeah.
yeah, that is very possible already by CRISPR and genetic mutation, and this people have been talking about. I mean,
But I mean, without genetic mutation and CRISPR. I mean, obviously, that's kind of what I was referring
well,
to.
that's
by
what you
saying
were
we
saying, when you can
it,
control
yeah.
your evolution. If
But
you're controlling your evolution, you can just.
You can do that. Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree. But what I mean is more slow and without external factors.
Well,
like
that's
that.
well external fact. What are external factors?
Like, I don't think the birds, when they took flight, I don't think they genetically modified themselves.
Well, I mean, they did. That's what happens. So what happens is that whenever the genes is
Yeah.
getting transferred, so why
But
there's
did they do it consciously?
well, I mean, that's exactly the point. I mean, if you want to do it consciously, you can just mutate your genes towards that,
Of course.
and that's it. You
Okay.
you can mutate it slowly. You can mutate it faster. You can mutate it in million years.
I
If
guess
you
what
can
I'm trying
control.
to do is I'm trying to break apart evolution in my own head to
Yeah.
understand how it actually happens.
Works.
Yeah.
And actually, yeah.
Because it makes sense when you say, oh yeah, giraffes, the tallest ones survived because everything was up
Yeah.
top. But how how does one take flight?
Well, it's a very easy thing. I think that's the problem. The problem is that we are thinking many times about evolution from a point where we see a flying bird,
Mhm.
but we, because not trained and cannot exist to actually see 150 million years.
Mhm.
What does 150 million years looks like or means like?
No,
Any conception?
no.
150 million years
Mm.
and 20 million years looks same to me.
Yeah, of course.
It doesn't make
Yeah.
it's pretty much whatever.
Yeah.
So because we haven't seen that, so it's a very hard thing. So we start from a point where you are saying they didn't have any wings, and then you say, oh, but they had wings now. Yeah, but you're talking about 150
Yeah.
million. And that is not a real figure. I'm just
No,
giving
of
an
course, of
example.
course,
Of course,
yeah.
I have no idea exact
sure.
figure. So that's how it happens. It doesn't happens
No, yeah, I
that they
agree.
get wings. But you're saying, oh, how do they get flight? So how do they get flight? It actually,
I mean,
it is explainable.
I've seen documentaries. I understand how it works, but
So,
is it possible to do it consciously?
well,
Is
now
what
you
is
were
my
saying that
argument.
you don't want it to do consciously.
I mean, consciously in that I don't want to do it through chemical means. I want to will myself into flight. Like I say,
Oh,
it's
I know
silly
what you
because
mean.
you
No, no,
can't do
no,
it in one
no. I mean,
lifetime.
that's
Again, it takes
well,
150 millions of years. But like we're
well. I
saying,
mean, yeah,
but can we will ourselves to do
well,
this
yeah, of
even over
course.
150
Well, you
million
can,
years?
yeah, you can live. You can increase your life by 1,000 years, and then maybe you can again. But the problem is there's a bias, which is like you have a very strong sense of you ending
Mm,
in this
mm,
body,
mm,
and that is it's like if only the change come from this body somehow is worth for me
mm,
exploring, rather than understanding that evolution
mm-hmm,
means you not being you but part of a very
mm,
huge system,
mm-hmm,
which actually just makes one aspect to perceive itself as an individual to have a starting point rather than actually considering it the product.
mm-hmm,
So when you're talking about evolution and you're trying to say
mm-hmm.
that why can't I just, so there's a bit of a
Conflict.
conflict
Yeah,
already,
yeah.
because you are not talking about something which is in your self reflection for a very small time.
Mm-hmm,
And well, even if you consider something like that, this is exactly what is going on. You consciously sometimes, uh, and when I say you, again, the problem is you want to have a memory of doing it
mm-hmm,
somehow.
mm-hmm.
It's a very
Like I said, the idea is
it's
fantastic.
a very no, it's a perfect idea. It's a perfect question to ask, because there's a sense of there's a point of view, very
Mm-hmm,
specific point of view you have regarding an external force, where there's a very strong distinction between you and that external force,
mm-hmm.
and there's a need for control in a way
Okay.
somehow. There's a need to know things and
Mm-hmm,
control certain processes which are influencing you rather than you want to be the influencer. And the problem now with this, what you're saying is that when there's a genetic coding going on in
mm-hmm,
your genes, and you might be the one person who actually have the mutated genes which is transferred into your son, that is what you did.
mm-hmm,
You just created a genes for wing.
mm-hmm.
So like what else? What else? But do you want to remember that you created a
You know,
gene?
I think more than anything, I think I'm asking questions which helps me decide
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
how much do I actually believe in what I believe,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
why
yeah.
do I believe what I believe?
Yeah, yeah.
Can what I believe be backed up?
Yeah,
Do you know
yeah,
what I mean?
yeah,
Can it
yeah.
even be replicated? Um, like I can understand swimming my whole life, holding my breath for a really long time, my children doing that, their children doing that, and over time they will maybe develop not gills, but webbed
Yeah.
hands and feet to help them swim better. Maybe they'll
Yeah.
be able to hold their breath
Yeah,
half an
yeah,
hour,
yeah,
1 hour.
yeah, yeah.
I can't imagine developing
Well,
wings
I mean,
out of nowhere. That's
you can go and take ayahuasca, and there might many times you see eagles, and you become an eagle, and
okay.
it would be a very easy for you because it shatters that barrier of your ego, which is stopping you to actually consider the experience of a bird, because bird is a very far away
Mhm.
species, and
Mhm.
you share about around 60 to 70% of the genes, which is very far away amount, and you have been spread out from the birds for so many 100 million years ago, and it's a very hard thing to go into the back of your mind
Mm.
and actually be able to just consider that. And it's a very easy thing to be able to consider something which you do already, which is swimming,
Mhm.
to actually understand that how could you, or an aquatic ape theory would be possible, although the reason why you are comfortable with
Mhm.
considering swimming
It's because I can
and
swim, but I
fishing,
can't fly.
the reason why you can even swim is because it is an evolutionary
Mm.
aspect.
Mhm.
Because I don't know if you know the aquatic ape theory, is
Mhm.
it is
Mhm.
so why dolphins?
Mhm.
And why dolphins are or orcas are so close to humans is because they say that
The mammals went back into the ocean.
well, I mean, no, it's how it happens is that when the temperature got very high and then there's a tropical rainforest and then the monkeys has to come out and that's when they actually started using mushrooms and creating coming up with complex solutions. They started living at the edge of these like peninsulas, which you call it, and that is why when I say the word peninsula, it actually creates a very you know what peninsulas are. You know what peninsula? Am I pronouncing it wrong?
No, you're pronouncing it right.
Yeah, you like it's like those where three-part ocean and one-part
Okay.
land. So
Okay.
it's like an island but connected to Earth,
Okay.
but it has enough water, like a level of water sometimes, and that place. So for some reason, just imagine it. What do you feel like a peninsula and some beach? Or if I call this word peninsula, or if I call like three-part beach and just like a patch of land, and you consider yourself there, what is the feeling which comes?
Like tropical island.
Okay, no, I mean I'm seeing more deeper, like right, like a like a wild, like something very what do you? I mean, it's a very hard thing which I'm asking you. Believe me, it's the stupidest thing which I'm doing, but why not?
Seems like an adventure, I guess.
Okay, so this is where all the cities were built. That is what our homes are always. That is where all the humans live. That's what every city has been at the river, right at the edge of that water place. That is how we consider those things like it's a yeah adventure, but yeah, it's exactly like why do you want to do adventure? You want to do adventure at a place where you feel comfortable enough, but there is enough prospect of unknown scenarios where you consider it to be enjoyable but still something new. So these places, what happened is that when we are coming, I mean long time ago, like an ape kind of thing. So what happened is that when we were apes, so we started living in these places, and then what happens is that all the so what is it one of so why is it evolutionary one of the best places? Because you're safe from the land predators because they're not gonna come into water, and but you're also safe from the water predators because they cannot come to the shallow water. So it is one of the best places to have an hideout at a place where the temperatures are really high all the year, and then you have trees close by where you can get your food.
Yeah.
So what happened is that that is the place where they say that it's splitted between the mammals split between those dolphin and orcas and the human, and that is one of the only reason, and that is the craziest thing. If you throw a baby in a human baby into a water, what would happen?
He holds his breath.
It just swims, it holds its
Yeah,
breath. How do you know? This is a very deep memory. If you throw monkeys into the water, what happens? It drowns instantly. The bones are too heavy. It doesn't know how to hold breath. It doesn't know how to keep the lungs closed. It just clamps and falls. Never have no experience. So that is one of the this is one of the aquatic ape theory. So the only reason, now coming back to that point, is you are feeling that understanding with holding your breath is because you
I've evolved
have
to do so, yeah.
yeah. So you're just not evolved, and you furthest away from.
And if
that.
I had wings, I'd be like,
How
how
could
difficult
I
would it be to swim? Yeah.
now imagine that? Like imagine that you have wings, you fly, you'd be like underwater.
Like, how is that possible? Yeah.
Yeah.
When's the last train?
Oh wait, what is the time? Oh yeah, I think like as quickly as possible.
Really?
Yeah, yeah. My goodness, 11.